Welcome, and thank you for checking out the 2021 STEM Festival video series that's being put on by the Wacomico County Libraries. My name is Vicki.
And I'm Brian.
And we work at the Center Branch Library in Wacomico County. This year our theme is going to be health and wellness. So we will be doing a series of videos focusing on healthy eating and healthy activities. I'll be doing a video series on cooking and making really healthy snacks and treats and meals.
And I'll be doing some demonstrations on some exercises you can do with equipment you might have around the house, or like how to make your own, that kind of thing.
And some of these videos that Mr. Brian is doing involving equipment, we will actually be having a take and make kit that you can pick up from your local library as well.
If we run out of take and make kits though, I'll have a list of materials going along with the videos to show you what you need to get to make your own equipment.
Be sure to explore all the other great STEM festival programs that are being put on all around the state by various libraries. You can check those out at the MarylandSTEMFest.org. That's www.mdstemfest.org. There'll be a list of all the different activities you can do, and we do hope you enjoy. And now on to the video. Welcome to our Healthy Eats video series for the Maryland STEM Festival 2021. If you are just joining us for the first time, welcome. If you are joining us from a different video, welcome back. Today, this video, we will be doing a chickpea salad. Chickpea salad is super simple, high in protein, high in all those good vitamins and nutrients you'd need to keep going. And it also has the benefit of being super simple and cheap to make. You can buy these things for less than $7 and make an entire meal high in protein and vitamin A, folic acid, all that good stuff. There's a couple things you'll need. You'll want to have a bowl to put it in. This one's fine if you have one with a lid that you can attach, even better, because then you just stick it in the fridge. I have a little bowl for scraps, but if you have a trash can, that works too. A cutting board. You'll need a knife and a grown-up's permission, supervision, or a grown-up's help. If you are younger, please let a grown-up handle the sharp, pointy things. If you're older, have a grown-up supervise you so you don't cut more than just the vegetables. That's the hardware. The software, which is what I like to call ingredients, you will need a green pepper. If you don't care for green peppers, that's fine. You can omit it just fine, but I like them. Half of a red onion. I got a larger one because that's what was in the bag. You don't have to use the whole thing, but half of a red onion. The red onions are sweeter and have a milder flavor than yellow onions, so these are really good for those cold salads that you don't have to heat up. You also have an option of a tomato. If you don't like peppers, maybe throw a tomato in there. You can throw both. I'm going to. This one's nice and soft, so you might see it ooze, but it's a risk we're going to take. You'll need some olive oil or canola oil, but olive oil has a nicer flavor to it. Canola oil tends to be a little bit blah. I'm using, for a little extra punch of flavor, some Italian salad dressing mix. Just that little packet of stuff you get at the grocery store. Don't use the whole thing unless you really like the garlic. Also, for the recipe, for the big part, you're going to use 2 cans, opened and drained, please drain them, of chickpeas. Or sometimes they're called garbanzo beans. They're the same thing, they're just called different names. If you want to reserve the water that you drain out of it, you can actually use that and whip it up and make something called meringues. It's called aquafaba if you want to sound fancy, but it's got a very similar protein structure to egg whites, so you can also reuse that for desserts like meringues. I've made them before. They are delicious and super easy. So let's get started. Let's start with our chickpeas. We're just going to go ahead and put them in our bowl. Get that taken care of. And you can do this before you start anything else, or you can do it afterwards. It doesn't really matter. Get out of there. Okay. I'm going to set those aside because we don't need them in the way. We're going to start with our pepper. Now, when you're cutting a pepper, you're going to take your knife and some safety, just some safety things. When you're not using the knife actively, if you don't have, I have a little cover on it, but if you don't have a cover, stick it facing away from you on the cutting board so that if you're working on the cutting board with other things, you're not accidentally going to hit your fingers on it. Just some safety stuff. We want to keep all of our digits, thank you. So when you are cutting, if you're cutting something and you're going to get close to your fingers, the best position for your hand is like the claw. You'll hold it down like that, and that way the knife will hit your knuckles and not your fingertips. You're less likely to cut them. For your pepper, you're just going to cut the top off And at this point I can just hold it like this because I'm keeping the knife far away from my hand. Cut off the top. And if you compost, you can absolutely throw that in the compost pile. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut with my hand in a C. I'm going to hold on either side and carefully just bifurcate it or cut it down the center. Thought you'd get an English lesson too. So then we're going to take the little center bits out. We don't want the seeds. I mean, they're edible, but they're not tasty. So sometimes you got to wipe your knife off, hold it blade side down, and just run your finger down over the bowl or the trash can. Or have a grown-up do it because, again, you want to keep all of our fingers, guys. So what I like to do is kind of smush it down. It will crack a little bit, and that's okay because you're going to cut it up anyhow. Once I get it flat, I'm going to carefully cut it into strips, maybe about 1/2 inch wide. Doesn't have to be perfect. That is absolutely fine. And now that I'm getting close to my fingers, I'm going to make the claw and kind of hold it down with the tips, the knuckles, so that I can cut it down. And we'll do the same with the other one. If you want to, you can take off this little white bit. It's the rib. It doesn't really add any flavor to the party, but if you face it away from you, get that knife into there and just kind of like shimmy it down, you can take care of it. Like I said, it doesn't hurt anything, it doesn't taste bad, it just doesn't bring a whole lot of flavor, and you know, we want the flavor. Again, cutting into little 1/2 inch strips, maybe 1/2 inch, depending on how big you want your peppers. If you have people who don't like peppers and you want to put peppers in, if you cut them really big, like chunks, they can be easily pulled out of the salad so that they don't have to eat them if they don't want to, but you can still have them. It's something I've learned having family that doesn't like peppers in their salads. I cut them in nice big chunks so that I can still eat them, but they can take them out. And that's fine too. You got to do what works for your family. Okay. So like you saw, I just take my little strips and I kind of bundle them up like this, facing that way. Do my claw, because we got to keep our fingers, and just cut it down. And this is going to dice them into nice little bite-sized pieces. You can use a cleaver. Oh gosh, that's in my eye. Be careful, because you might want to wear goggles when you're cutting these things. They tend to spray a little bit, and it doesn't feel great. It's not as bad as jalapenos, mind you. If you're cutting a hot pepper, you want to be real careful. Sometimes you'll find that the skin doesn't get cut all the way through, and that's fine too. Just pull it apart. My hands are clean, by the way. The biggest thing you want to do for safety when you are cutting up food or preparing food is you want to make sure your hair is pulled back if it's long, and you washed your hands well. Since I've washed my hands well, I can just pick the food up much easier. Your hands are your best tool when you're cooking. All right, that's the pepper right in there. Let's move on to tomato. We'll do the tomato last because that one's going to be a little bit, it's going to be a little oozy. So with your onion, you're going to cut the top off. Make sure you cut the side that doesn't have the roots, okay? Because the roots are going to hold everything together. Pop that in there, and then you want to take the skin off. And with red onions, it's really easy to see where the skin is because it's different. It's like a darker red. You see how pretty that is underneath? It's going to look so nice in our chickpea salad. Because I'm only using half, I don't have to pull all the skin off. And in fact, it keeps it a little bit fresher if you keep some of the skin on. But you can do whatever you have to. If it all comes off in one piece, great. You can do that too. Onions, if you keep them in a zip top bag in the fridge, they can keep for about a couple days. You want to use them soon because otherwise you end up with shriveled onions. Unless you put them in soup, you can do that. Once they start growing fur, it's time to take them away. So what I like to do when I cut up my onions is I cut them hemispherically, just down that center. I want to keep that root intact because that'll keep the onion together. If you take that root away, all the little layers of the onion will start falling apart. So I'm gonna pull the rest of this off because I misspoke. And we're not gonna cut it down the equator, we're cutting it down the front and middle. So when I'm dicing onion, a really easy way to do it. Oh, and fun fact, red onions don't make you cry as bad as yellow onions, so that's an extra point in their favor. You want to take your knife, and you don't want to cut all the way through to the root, because you want to keep that root intact to hold the onion together. You're going to put it down the middle, and cut down the middle, and then just like a sunbeam, or like when you draw a sun on your art, you want to cut it in a bit of a spoke, like a wheel spoke, because that will keep it together better. And again, you want to be very careful to get your fingers out of the way of your knife. Down that way just a little bit. So then, with your claw, hold your onion down and make maybe 1/4 inch cuts down your onion. And what's going to happen is those layers are going to start coming apart. And I think that's probably going to be plenty of onion for our salad. And just like with the peppers, if you have someone in your family that doesn't like onions, you can cut them much bigger and have them in like bigger slices, even like that. And that way they can pick them out if they don't like them, so that everyone can enjoy it. But if you can see, when I dice them, you can cut them even smaller than this, but I'm not going to. Ooh, it's starting to tear up a little bit. You can cut them up and break them up into little pieces into your salad. Like I said, I'm going really light on the onion because not everyone likes it. If you like onions, go crazy. All right, so that is the onions and the peppers. We're just throwing them in the bowl. Nothing too terribly complicated about that. Set that aside for another day. Blink away your tears. Whew. So now, with tomatoes, it's good to remember that you want to use a sharp knife. Sharp knives are going to cut much better. You're going to have less oozing. This knife is fairly sharp, but this is a really soft tomato. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it down just into chunks, and then cut those chunks into bite-sized pieces and make a mess because it is oozing everywhere. Like I said, it's a very ripe tomato, and sometimes that happens. So cut it down, make a mess. As long as you clean up, grown-ups will be fine. So now we've got all of our software or cutting stuff in here. It's time to add the wet works. I usually eyeball this because sometimes if you have an extra juicy tomato, you don't need as much oil, but you're adding the oil just for a little bit of moisture to it. Otherwise, it'll help it stick together better, and it'll help the seasoning stick on as well. So what we're going to do, move this cutting board out of the way, hopefully without spilling too much tomato juice. Take my olive oil, and you can measure it if you like. I like to eyeball about 2 tablespoons, and if you've been cooking for a while or helping your grown-ups cook for a while, you should be able to eyeball, you know, what you think. I'm going to do about 2 tablespoons of oil because I like mine to have a little extra. And olive oil does have a really nice taste with this too. So next we're going to add some spicy. Right there. We're going to add probably about half, and then we'll taste it. And we'll do some salt and pepper as well because it can always be improved with salt and pepper. So these little packets are super easy to find. And it's what you would do if you want to make Italian dressing at home. You'd add oil and vinegar, or just oil depending on the recipe. But it has a nice mixture of garlic and salt and basil and all those good little herbs that you might not have everywhere. So we're just going to add a little bit, maybe half the pack. That's about it. I like garlic. Half the pack there, and then we'll taste it to see if we need to add any extra salt. So that is looking nice and mixed, and you want to just make sure everything is evenly distributed. And the best part about cooking is the quality control test. That's what I like to call it. Quality control. I take we'll just take a chickpea. It looks like it's got a little bit of everything on it. I could probably add a little more of the dressing mix because the flavor's not super strong. But everything, you know, every different spice blend is different. So going a little bit is better because you can always add. It's really hard to take it out once you've added it. So add a little more. That's about 3/4 of the pack. Mix it up. And you are done. That is all you have to do. So if you cover this, it'll last for about a week, if it lasts that long. I ate mine in 2 days. When I made a test batch, I made mine in 2 days because it's delicious and it's a really good light lunch if you want to take it to school It'll give you a lot of protein, it'll give you some carbs, and all the vegetables in there makes it have lots of vitamins that you need to get on with your day and do a good job. So I'm not even going to add any salt or pepper because honestly the Italian dressing does have plenty in it, but like I said, every seasoning mix is different, so having them on hand is always a good idea. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you try this. And if you have any comments you'd like to leave, feel free to reach out to the library on our Facebook page and put any comments or feedback that you have. I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you get a lot of fun out of doing the activities, making the foods, eating the food. And we do encourage you to check out the other videos that may or may not be showing up in the little bar down below. Thanks guys, bye.